Every lost election is rigged. Every embarrassing fact is fake news. Every scientific truth is a hoax. Every protest against them is paid. Imagine being so fragile that you have to create a whole fake reality to cope. Yes, Lauren, that is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think we should see if Lauren has time to come up if she's somewhere stable. Let us know. We'll have you come up in a few minutes after we talk about a few things. I'll have to say, great to see everybody. I'm glad you're here. It's a beautiful day out. It's been a beautiful couple days. I was just telling Fennell, I traveled up to Ohio. And when you go to different places, you really kind of get the pulse. And Ohio is really cool this year, everybody. We talk about trying to figure out what's going on with the election and how things are rolling. Ohio has a really important governor's race. Amy Acton's a Democrat. David Pepper is going to running for lieutenant governor, and Sherrod Brown is the Senate. We'll talk about the Senate because we'll talk a little bit about some issues with some we want to talk about voting and so on. So I go up there and I found a reunion talking to the safe liberals on one side, and I'm like, Cleveland, polka bands, pierogies. And then I said to people, I'm like, okay, so is Amy Acton going to win? Are we winning this? And they're like, I don't know. They're like, they really are not sure. I go, people are still voting for these stupid people. They're like, they're not letting Vivek Goswami talk at all. They're running ads and he's not allowed to talk. And I said, and this brown person, I said, racism isn't even working. I'm like, I'm just throwing out every hope possible. I'm like, come on now. They're like, these people are so stuck. And so when we talk about this, it really is about motivating our base. But I'm just interested. So it was a good visit. Went up there, poked with my sister, came home, and back to reality in Virginia. But I'm interested in what you've been up to real quick before we get started. Hello. Willie's here. Nancy B is in here. Hey, guys. So tell me what you're doing. Accomack, you're doing some fundraising for your committee.
Yeah, so our local Northampton County
Right.
Democratic Committee. So we went to a yard sale. We actually collected lots of stuff from
Right.
everybody. And we went to a yard sale. Well, Amina was actually there, but she was getting money for herself. We were trying to make money for the party.
And she was
And
spending money.
and, so Bill Payne comes and he says to me, he sends me a text message and he says, I have 12 tables. Well, we pay for 3 spots. But they're so smart that once we put up our 3 tables, they line up 12 tables behind us with
Right.
all kinds of stuff. You sell the stuff for $3, $5, $2, whatever. But I just want you to know that we are so proud that when we talk to our committee on Wednesday, we're going to say
Right.
we raised just under $600.
And this
So
is
we're so
important.
happy.
Important because everybody in here, we really want to talk about some things around voting tonight. We're real excited in a couple weeks when Juneteenth is coming up. We'll have Gayleen Kenoyton, if you know Gayleen in Virginia, part of the Hampton leadership in the NAACP, also a steering committee in Democratic Party of Virginia. The Freedom Summer stuff is real and big, and that's important. We see some movement. So, we want to talk about some issues that are on our minds today. So I want to talk to you about what you've been saying about this push pause.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have been really thinking a lot about, as I sort of, you're moving through and you're sort of walking and talking and you're watching your social media and what people are doing or saying. And I'm just thinking that the seriousness, I don't feel it in my gut like I think I should
Yeah.
feel in terms of the things that I'm seeing. So I have this idea that it's really important that we are truthful with our
Right.
friends and family and that we're truthful with the American people about where we are. So that means that you can't just say that it's about gas and groceries, because what if gas and groceries are down in November and people think, oh, everything was cool. So you can use that as a catalyst to sort of wake up people, but there's more and there are bigger things at stake. And so what I think that we have an opportunity to do is to sort of push pause.
Push
Just
pause.
push pause,
I
and
like
just ask people to be silent for a minute, and then for just 60 seconds, give them a prelude to what is actually happening in this
interesting.
country. That
Right.
we take the opportunity to connect the dots. You know how sometimes you see these fast things go by? Maybe you see Ivanka Trump talking about
Right.
the island that they're gonna
It's
buy
that
in
island.
people in
I'm
Ethiopia.
hoping they fall off the island. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah, but it's even bigger than that. What's happening with ICE and all the things that you're
Right now.
seeing that
Right.
so many people aren't paying attention to because there's this attention deficit. That there's so many things happening that people are all over the place. And so if we can find
Right.
the opportunity to push pause and just ask people to be quiet for just a moment and then give them 60 seconds of what's actually happening in this country that could change their lives as they know it. And I
Right.
don't want to say fear for the sake of fear, but I want to say fear for the sake of hope and action that
Right.
we actually can move people forward to recognize that if there was ever a time that you paid attention to how your life can be impacted, it would be now. And the only way we can do that is to catch their attention, and we have to push pause to be able to do that. So that's
No,
what I'm thinking about.
I like that, and I think okay, so this is interesting because I think you're right about the gas and eggs, and so this is funny you said that because remember I told you I was in Cleveland. We went up there this weekend, big family reunion. And so I was talking to people that live there, really curious to say, hey, what do you think that's going on? I mean, because prices are going out of control, things like are unaffordable, really. And my one nephew told me, what I overhear is they're not talking about certain things. They don't want to face this. My mom will come home from Walmart and say, oh, everything's expensive, but they don't tie it to the thing that could make them actually see what they want to see. So there is a truth to, and I think this is where with this moderate thing about the parties going through, like how do we appeal to this base of people? They're really non-gettable. I'm going to say to you that they are non-gettable, and we shouldn't waste our damn time on them because they are not going to change your mind in so many ways. But we have to get into the people that need to vote. There is like we had Delegate Sam Russell on Friday on the Friday Power Lunch, and he was really great because when we were talking about who is the Democratic Party, he's like, there's 350 million voters, and neither of them fit in two buckets. So you got to get more people just to fit in your bucket and get more of those people to vote and care. And like you said, a lot of them are not paying attention. And this is our constant conversation because it's like, how do we grab their attention?
Yeah, here's what I think is important about that. There's a lane, for everybody, and what
Right.
I say is that the Republican lane, the MAGA lane, is not my lane,
Right.
and, what I mean by that, those folks
Right.
who are
Yes.
who are knocking on those doors, that's fine because everybody can't do everything, and nobody is right about everything, so it's
Right.
fine for people to have different ideas about how things work. But for me, I do believe in data. So I do want to understand where our people are and where the numbers are. If you tell me that we're going to win this particular district that we haven't won before, then like you always say, show me where we're going to get 48,000 more votes from.
Yeah,
We
you're
should
going to
we
get it.
should be able to
Mhm.
do that. And that's where
Right.
it becomes important to say, no, we can't just rely on Democrats. It's not enough of them. So where are the independents and where are the Republicans who may not be getting the right news? Because we think that people are part of this Republican Party because the news that they're getting, they think
Right.
is the right news. So if you don't find a way to crack through to get to people who are really they just don't know. They simply don't know. And we have to find a way to talk to those people. Now someone else would do that, not me. But there is a
Yeah.
lane for that to happen and it should happen. But for me, I want to know how many people who are independents, how many people are
Right.
registered voters who don't vote, how many people need encouragement, information to feel like that there's something that they're fighting for. Where are they? Let's get to them. And is it
Right.
enough of them to take us to where we need to go in November? And we have to start talking to them, which is where the press pause comes in. Push pause.
Yeah, I like that, and because just sort of that kinda moment you could take to really spend more time in thinking about this. Because what I find and what we talk about, we have obviously thought about this a lot, and then having the power to do some of the bigger things where, it would be great if the people that have that kind of bigger megaphones, maybe more money, would also join us or figure this out. And let's just say, well, I told Lauren we'll have her on in about 5 minutes. We'll call her
Okay.
up because I do think what I get really frustrated with is the media. Sometimes the media works like we saw right now. If you guys were watching earlier on, um, Trump
Meet the press.
interview with Meet the Press with Kirsten Welker, right, in Wisconsin. She rode all that way, and he could not take the truth, but he knows the damn truth. But the problem is you don't want the cult to see it because he's on TV, so he constantly talks, and he never lets the pause happen, because in the pause is where people may hear it. So if you watch his strategy and what MAGA does anywhere on TV when there's something happening, that they are trying to really make sure they don't break the gaze. And it's just so apparent. And that's why it's important that we have people going on Fox News to break that. And I think when you watch talk shows, they're talking over each other. There is no pause. There is no time of real good debate and reflection, right? It is totally like bing, bing, bing. And so it's really hard for people to, if you went away with that interview, you saw Trump walk out, you saw him be all rude, but in the sense, you really didn't, you got a little bit of his inability to admit that it wasn't rigged, but he said his whole argument again and again and again. He just confirmed it over and over and over. He won. Democrats are cheating in California. And that's the end of the story. He's mad he left. So it's like, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that is where the opportunity is. It's like when
Right.
they talk about stuff, if someone just asks one more question, if they just ask one more question, but they all stop because they're afraid that they'll be kicked out
I'd
and they
be
won't be
so
able to
afraid.
come
Like,
back.
I wish they'd all yell. Why don't they? I can't wait to talk to Lauren. Like that one press conference, they all sit there and no one says, they go, next question. They had the guy at the podium and they actually had him on the rope and they were like, calling out about why are we going after, we're going after criminals. Are we going to go after the Trump criminals? Next question. And no one in the room said, again, when we talk about coordination, and strategy, that we don't see the press coordinating around this. We have seen it at some point. And let's go back to California and the California primary when you talk about because we're talking about strategy. What the hell with 8 Democrats running and why we can't organize around that? And say your pet peeve.
Yeah, so that is my pet peeve, and so I am so annoyed that at the end of the day for the governor's race in California that we will end up with a Democrat and a Republican. And
Right,
what that will do is if we had 2 Democrats, it would leave lots of Republicans with no reason to come out. They would stay home because 'cause they're not
right,
voting for governor. And so what happened is, and this is where I say, I did this piece. Do people really know where the monsters are? That there are monsters out there, and do they really believe it? And the reason I say that is because we had, like you said, 8 Democrats or something. I don't know what the number is. 8 Democrats running. And my if they had just sat down together and said, "We're gonna do the top 3, and
right,
here's who we are." Just imagine all of those wasted votes that happened
right.
between what's her name, Katie Porter and the mayor and the somebody, if they had just gone to the top 2. None of them thought enough of the country and the
Do it.
moment that we're in right now to say, "I'm gonna take a step back." They all thought they were too good,
You're all think
too
you're too
arrogant,
good.
"It's
I
all
know.
about me," and just screw the rest
No,
of it.
no,
And I
because at this point, we have to be a coordinated team and fighting because look, one thing we do know, and if people are watching what's happened about the rule of law and democracy, the slush fund, that $1.76 billion slush fund, they're not going to let that go. They're going to use that to weaponize shit at the midterms. The Supreme Court is continuing. Still, major rulings are going to come our way on trans athlete bans, immigration powers, guns rights, religious claims. So they're continuing this pitch right. So we're not, there's a drift there that people are talking about. Mark Elias from Democracy Docket, really heavy warnings on, even though some things are going the right way, they are not going to give up on we saw the SAVE Act not pass. Who knows? It's still looming, but there's this bigger, we know there's a lot of problems. And I want to talk about the Freedom Riders at some point.
Yeah, but
'Cause
but
we're,
if we
you know,
if
but
we
go ahead.
could if we could, Alpha says something in here, and
Yeah, Alpha. Mhm.
I wanted to say
Yeah,
she said,
I'm on
oh,
another page. Let me see
yeah,
what
so
she's
it's
saying.
okay,
Thank
but
you.
she's talking about, are they adverse to the truth, comfortable with the narrative that supports the way they want to believe? And
Yes.
and I wanna say that is absolutely right. I do believe that there are some out there. If they weren't, we wouldn't have the Kissingers. We wouldn't have some of these other Republicans who are doing things, and we can talk about the things that they're doing. But there are Republicans out there who say that this is not what I want to be. But I think that there's a bigger issue, and I do think it's important for us to create narratives, even for Republicans, because ultimately what it lets our people know, what it lets Democrats and
Right.
independents and other people know, that we are fighting against the stuff that they're saying. They have to know that we're fighting against it. If they don't hear anything from us, then that's really bad. But they should hear us fight against the lies. They should hear us talk
Right.
about what they're doing. That is really important, because it comes down to a couple of things. When they think about I thought about this today. So you think about all of this grievance, right? So there's this grievance against our immigrants. There's this
Right.
grievance against the LGBTQ community. There's this grievance against Black people and people of color. Everybody is taking their stuff. And what you have to know is everybody's taking their stuff, but we see money going into this reflection pool, all of these
Right.
statues, Trump going on the money, on the passports. We see the Javanka doing
Yeah.
taking land from Albania. So they're so focused on us taking stuff that we're not taking, that they're not even seeing the stuff being ripped from them, and why their groceries are so expensive, and why
Yeah.
gas is so expensive, and why all these things are happening. And that's why it's important for us to take that narrative everywhere, so that not
Yes.
only do our people see it, but at some point, the people on the other side get tired of hearing us talk to them about how ridiculous they are. So I wanted to say
Well,
that.
no. I agree, and I think Alpha is onto something. I just told, Lauren, I sent it to your personal account, not Black Virginia News. I just want to tell her I sent her invite to come on up, and I'll see if I can send it to both. But hey, I also want to ask Lauren how she got that little check. She got that check by her name, you know?
That's because she's Black Virginia News.
That's right.
People
Told
gotta
she
pay
has
for you to get the
still
check.
gotta
You
pay
don't
to
get
get
the check unless you
no,
are
no, we
paying.
gotta
That's
start
it.
that. Yeah. No, I mean, I think Alpha's right. And it's almost like I said, I really was really confident about Ohio because I thought there's so much issues going on. You look at a state like Ohio that was Democratic leaning, the union. It was really after redistricting and the power of that, that you see that people are redistricted in these horrible places that you can't vote your way out of that. You really can't. But for statewide office,
Yeah, you
the
can.
governorship, you can. And I still hold the belief that Amy can win. But when I talk to people that live there and they tell me there's just no freaking way because they must just see it everywhere that people are still dug in, even if the public education is failing, people can't read. There was a teacher, my niece is a teacher, and she said, I am a fourth, fifth grade teacher. They're sending me kids, they can't read. They can't read. What the heck? And I know when Sam Russell on Friday was saying that with AI and computers and what we know in schools with this influx of this technology, kids can't read. Now there she is talking about kids can't read. What's up?
Hey, how are you doing? Let me turn the other thing
Yeah,
off.
go ahead, turn your other thing off. No, it's so good to see
Look,
you because
you
we're
showed
all just what we're talking about is like right up your alley with media. But just for a sec, let's just say hi.
hi, how's it going? I have no idea what I'm doing on Substack. I'm a YouTube gal, so I have no idea what I'm doing when I'm on a Substack video. But good, good.
But
I'm
here
doing
you
fine. I'm just busy, but okay. You know.
So you wanna tell everybody, Catherine, who Lauren is?
Yeah, Lauren Burke, she's the founder and head of the Black Virginia News. Everybody should be subscribed to that. And everywhere they're making news in Virginia, you'll see Lauren there in that baseball cap, wandering around, interviewing on the Hill. So definitely tuning into that. But she's, especially when you're talking about Virginia news and just an inside player. And speaking of that, tell us what's on your mind when you're thinking about going to back for some Virginia news. I'm loving that you're sharing all the Black history stuff going on. So as we head into Juneteenth and this Freedom Summer stuff, what's your thoughts?
You know what? I'm about to get into the fight between the governor and Senator
Awesome.
Lucas. I've been trying to sort of wait until it was sort of over to
We're
look
thinking
at.
it was going to be over.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be over too, but it is not, and it is actually over an important issue, which is the data center issue.
Yes,
Yes,
it
it
is.
is.
So,
Well, set
it is
that up so
interesting.
people in the room, so when people watch it later,
Yeah, so what's going on is
Governor's
that
Al Spanberger.
Right, and our governor, of course, Abigail Spanberger, and one of the most powerful legislators in the Virginia General Assembly, Louise Lucas, who is, of course, the chair of finance. They are at an impasse with regard to the budget because of the tax breaks for data centers. I
Yes.
think Virginia is number 1, right, in data
Yes.
centers.
In
People
the
number
world.
Well,
2.
is it in the world? Yeah, I
Yeah, I
believe
think
it.
so.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, it's a huge issue. It goes to money in politics. It goes to, whether or not the community should really have a say in what's going on with data centers. They have all popped up so quickly. There really wasn't a discussion
Right.
about what the community wanted with these data centers. That's been brought up by a lot of other people, Senator Rome and a lot of people. And, so here we have the speaker, Don Scott, the governor versus Louise Lucas on, I think, what is an issue that goes to money in politics. We have big tech. We're in a moment where big tech
Mhm.
is trying to really control this country in a very holistic way, and Donald Trump is allowing them to do it. That is another part of this backstory that makes it a little surprising to me that there's so much pushback on Senator Lucas on this issue, and all the polling indicates people absolutely hate data centers. So
Yes.
and before I do that, it'll probably be something on the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is now about to hand down a bunch of very consequential
Yes.
decisions. Mail-in ballots is probably the number one on my mind
Yes.
on
I saw
that. Of
that.
course,
Mhm.
we're gonna have birthright citizenship coming out soon, and this Supreme Court is very dangerous. So,
It's
that's
the
the other.
problem. It really is the problem, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
that's a lot of big on the menu, and I like it. I like
Mhm.
everything because we talked a little bit about the Supreme Court, and truthfully, when we talk about if this Democrats ever get back power, and we do, that we need to have a strategy. There's things that aren't just about winning an election, because even if we do, if they're still, that's one of the big problems is the complicity. They're really the driving force of what we're experiencing. And we can't mess around with this. I don't know. Like, unfortunately, when Joe Biden got in there, they had a little committee that went nowhere with it.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about, to say the least. We're in an extremely precarious moment. I do think that the Democrats are gonna win the
Yeah.
House, and I think the Democrats are probably gonna win the Senate. There's a really good chance they're gonna win the Senate. Obviously, this week was full of, Graham Plattner news, which is
I know.
pretty
We were talking
interesting.
about that.
So Lauren, so let me tell you. So
I'm getting
there's a person on Substack who I love.
Mhm.
It's a black man writes. I don't know if you read him or not.
Yeah, he's a little bit controversial, but I usually like him, but he definitely goes in he's
Listen,
definitely a charger.
listen. I was going to say that what he does is my husband always says when someone comes in off the top rope, when the wrestling matches happen and someone jumps off the top rope and that like so I think that he always comes off the top
I
rope.
like that
Right.
description.
So yeah,
He does.
so I'm going to tell you what he writes about Plattner. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's what he writes.
huh?
He says Plattner is accused of physical abuse of women, sexting with other women while married, and possibly has a Nazi tattoo. Trump has been convicted of sexual abuse and allegations of pedophilia and still was elected. Democrats, get off your high horse, you stupid MFers.
I saw that earlier too, yeah. I
So here's why I think that it's funny. Not well, the MFers part is funny too, but here's why I think it's funny because we are where we are. We knew about that tattoo. We knew about all of these things, and I don't know what to do with it, and I think people should just stop talking about it and let the people in Maine make their decision. They have a choice between Susan Collins, who we have known what she
No, no,
said she was
yeah.
going to do, and she's just been awful, awful, awful. And we have this guy who at least says, "Here are the things that I care about." He disputes vehemently about having any physical contact, but
Right.
all the other stuff he's been talking about and talking about. We don't know what people have done. I mean, we have been disappointed again and again and again and again, which is why you can't say what is in the cards. All I know is let's just get rid of Susan Collins however they decide to, but Maine will make that decision. So it will be up to them. It's not up to us to figure it out at this point because they have let it go too far. So here we are. That's it.
Well, when Mark Warner doesn't say, when you saw Mark Warner interviewed about this, I think this is where I was talking about Fennell earlier, is that what drives me crazy with everything going on, the Democratic news and everybody's focusing on this guy. and they're focusing all about his story.
Mhm.
And I think it feels purposeful. You know, if you listen to Wajahat, they really talk about Democrats have this purity test. They really are suspicious that they're trying to just, as we know, an inside game, get rid of him. There's a lot of people that don't want him there. So we know enough about politics. Hey, it's probably true. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, the whole thing that we see how people are recruited and all that. But, you know, and even when Mark Warner says, well, you know, some things hopefully, you know, he'll address, but I'm staying out of it. And the people of Maine have to decide. Let's move on. And at some point, the goal has to we have to win to get rid of the monster. And if we start this crap and Democrats, like you said, lose focus, uh, and even if we win this race and lose focus, like in Virginia, let's just go back to this whole thing in Virginia. We won the trifecta. We worked pretty damn hard for years to get there. I'm in this game like 10 years.
Look how that turned out.
I had to do it twice because we lost it in 21 because the way the party handled their nominee. I know what that can do to kill something. Then we fought back. Now we have the blue majority in Virginia, folks. Then we have Democrats themselves seeming not to have a strategy about what that looks like. So back to Senator Lucas, powerful woman, Spanberger, Surville in the House. We see, I don't know, just all of it. And it just drives me nuts. But it really is important, as you said, because it's corporate Democrats or these moneyed people. And if Democrats don't look at themselves and say, we need to be different, we need to embrace the people and not embrace corporations and like you said, or because Republicans don't want data centers either.
Right.
It was like the Gaza war. They didn't want the Gaza war either, but they couldn't talk about it. And then they lost on getting people's attention to talk about an important issue.
Right. Well, it's not just the money people. It's
Yeah.
a group of moneyed interests that is now controlling the government as run by
Yeah.
Donald Trump. It's actually Elon Musk.
You're
It's
right.
Meta. It's not just anybody, right?
Thank
And
you.
so that's what makes it so interesting that only Louise Lucas, like, so in the leadership of the Democrats,
Yes.
only Louise Lucas has figured out that might be problematic, you know. So I know that a lot of people are not particularly comfortable with her style and the brashness
Sure.
and all that. I would make the argument that Louise is effectively using Trump's strategy. She's a Democrat using Trump's strategy.
You know what? That's really
Somewhere between mafia boss and I don't care what you think, you know, and that is what we say that we want the
we
Democratic
won.
Party to do, and then when it shows up and happens, we get a little nervous, and whether it's Graham Plattner or Senator
Yeah.
Lucas, right? And Plattner to me is a little bit of a set of that, right? So there's nothing he's done that I've heard so far that would even
Yeah.
go close to what Trump has been
No, no.
in a civil court proved to have done. And now he's going after E. Jean Carroll. So it's kind of like when we do see that style of politics on the Democratic side, we get a
Right.
little bit nervous, but at the same time, we do have to get to a point where we understand. I know it's uncomfortable. This is the game. I mean, you do have to bring a gun to a gunfight, you know, and this is what is happening. And it is uncomfortable to watch. I'm not going to say that, you know,
Well, I
it's
think because it's again another Democrat, so you want but at the same time,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that underestimates Lucas, like Senator Lucas, when you saw Youngkin in that his dream in Alexandria, he thought he can bypass and jump over this person, and I'm surprised. Yeah, and it's really important, and I'll just say to everybody listening, this is really important because in Ohio, talking about that race and what you said just clicked in my head. So my hometown is Youngstown, Ohio, and Trump promised to put a plant in Lorton, bring the cars back. Remember that? Vote for me.
Mhm.
Oh, it never happened, like y'all said. Guess what's going in there?
A data center.
Data center.
Right. Mhm.
And you know who's running for governor there? The Republican.
By
Swami.
Ramaswamy.
That's
Right.
right. What's he do? Data centers. That's
Data.
it. It's controlling the new
Also,
world.
Tennessee, they put one underground in Tennessee. The community was against it. It's Elon Musk in Utah. We've got Mr. Wonderful fighting those ladies in Utah and the entire community in Utah. So here's something that the public hates.
Data center.
And yet our elected officials are having some sort of problem because, of course, the money is coming in. And in Virginia, I think the reason that we've got most of them is because we have the endless, you know, we have the endless donation issue. So I don't know.
Mhm.
We still have a big tech sector here. So it's not just that. Obviously, Loudon has been the home of a lot of data centers, but Alpha
Yeah.
One, I owe you a text, Alpha. At
Yeah.
any rate, there's a lot going on,
I
you know?
like No, I agree, and for now, I do think I feel like a conspiracy. Sometimes I'm living a conspiracy world in my own head because I see it, and you start to go, "Oh my god," when my neighbors told me in Ohio this, it just occurred to me, I'm driving through past Lordstown. You gotta remember Lordstown, what it was up there in Ohio.
Mhm.
And and then I saw who's running for governor and the cryptocurrency that hurt Sherrod Brown and all the money and people, this is about controlling the world. These people want
Right.
this is AI is not just about your computer. It's bigger than that, and the people don't want it. So, I mean, so when we talk about this, this is super important. And yeah. So for now, what do you think? Pause. One.
Well,
Pause. Now.
so here's what I think. I think that I don't think we look very good right now.
Yeah.
I think the public fight hurts us a little bit,
Right.
and I think that nobody is right all the time, but I do think that there is a way to deal with crisis. There's a way to deal with differences. There's a way to do all of
Right.
that, especially when you have all three chambers. And so I think that we have to look ahead, and this is what a good strategy is that when 27 comes along, we want people to be confident enough to keep Republicans in office. I mean, keep Republicans to
Yes.
keep
Yeah. You're
to
right.
keep Democrats in office. And when we act like we can't get it together amongst ourselves, I think people lose confidence. And I think that that is important to think about. And so I think that there is a way to deal with this that perhaps doesn't have to be so out front. And I think you're right, Lauren. People do want to see us fight. I just don't know that they want to see us fight each other in such a way. And I think it just I think it can be damaging is what I think.
I mean, you're right, for now, it could definitely be damaging. The problem is, there has to be a discussion, and I heard this a little bit on the show on your clips, with Sam Rasool. There has to be some sort of discussion about what exactly the Democratic Party stands for,
Yeah.
because if we're not standing for collective bargaining, for example,
Yeah.
that needs to be
Sure.
discussed. You have SEIU knocking doors for Democratic candidates, doing all this stuff for Democratic candidates, all this, and then to have the governor not sign their premier legislation is problematic. It is
It is.
problematic. Okay, so the other thing is, Democrats, of course, because of FDR and the legacy of all of that, you know, this is the party of the working class,
Mhm.
supposedly, right? So if you're building that brand and at the same time you're not doing collective bargaining like that's problematic. These things have to be
Problematic.
figured out at some point. So in a way, I like the public fight because the fight needs to happen.
Yeah.
There is, I think, just an issue here. Let's be real. Governor Spanberger has only been in office for less than
Yeah.
120 days.
Yeah.
I mean, so she just got here. So I'm still in sort of the mode of let's just see what happens. She's got years to come
Yes.
back and fix a lot of this, but it is not a good start. It is not a
No,
good
No.
it's not a good start, but this is what I think about, thinking long term,
Mhm.
which is I agree with you. It's only been what 6 months or whatever. The time is short.
Right.
And so it's having an understanding about where you talk together with the people and say the group that you are affecting, where you guys can come to an agreement and then you can come out and publicly talk about that.
Right.
Maybe that's unheard of, but I think that's important because when we're dealing with Virginia, it's bigger than Virginia. It is our Democratic brand that is down here. And everything that you do everywhere in states like Virginia and New Jersey, when things don't go the way that we want them to
Yeah.
go, everybody is talking about it. And it's still the brand that nobody seems to care about rebuilding except for
Yeah.
us. And I just think that tell me it's problematic to me to have a party this big and at the top of the house, we can't come together to have conversations that make sense about how we move forward strategically as a collective.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
I mean, I would
that's
like
crazy to me.
Mikey Sherrill also is under pressure, right? The Delaney
Big
Dam
time.
Hall. And
Right.
it's freaking serious. And I think that it feels like that we're down here, understand our hair's on fire. And they're up there. And I mean, these people that are in this place on a hunger strike, this is a concentration camp. And I know she went there to try to visit, and somehow they get into this thing with the cops that they have to do the being in your background and that. What's your think? Her take on the law enforcement? She wants to look like that there is some kind of thing she's worried about safety in that because she went there. Obviously, she cared about Delaney Hall. But why do you think, that tightrope they want to walk, like the data center and walk that, then walk the thing with law enforcement? Like, there's like, you need like a Gavin, I don't know if it's Gavin Newsom, but the kind of thing is that, just to really lead in the moment and just feel confident that you got to do the right damn thing and stop worrying about these, whoever these people are that have power of you, whatever is the law enforcement, as even the labor people, you have to do right. Like somehow, this is protecting people, our due process. This shit's real, and these people don't seem to be able to get it together.
Well, the Republicans play a really good game on the crime issue. They always have the Democrats on defense,
Right.
and they're on offense, right? So
Right.
you can see Mikey Sherrill and Governor Spanberger are always trying to appear like we are for cops no matter what.
Right.
And it gets into things like, "Oh, I don't really care about warrantless arrest." You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, for some communities in Virginia, this is highly problematic,
Highly
particularly African
problematic.
American community, but it really is problematic for anybody who can read the Constitution, which
Right.
due process is mentioned, I think, 3 times. So, uh, I always have a problem with the more obvious points of due process. There is
Right.
nobody in any party that isn't for putting people in jail who need to be in jail. You know, my entire college education was paid for by a law enforcement officer who did that all day. So I get the cop thing, but the problem is now we're getting into things that look like Japanese internment. We're
Yes.
getting into kidnapping. We're getting into killing 2 people in Minnesota, 2 people
Right.
are dead that are
People are dying inside these places.
who were shot dead by a federal agency, by the government, the arm of the government. These people are dead. So, and now we have Delaney Hall, which should be protested. And so these things are unprecedented. And so what you see is 2 Democratic governors coming out on the side of Donald Trump on the issues of due process and warrantless arrest. And, again, back to Virginia, we saw some vetoes here that are hugely problem. It wasn't just the, it was just the collective bargaining. We saw the pharma veto, we saw the
Yes.
warrantless wiretap, and
Right.
we saw that SB 61 veto, which was the Juwan Ward swam minority business veto. I don't know what the hell that was about. I'm going to
Right.
get Delegate Ward on the phone on that, but you know. These are not. I know that Spanberg is trying to cut this. Governor Spanberg is trying to cut this sort of image of the moderate. I
Right.
get it, but a lot of these things are Democratic things that Democrats talk about.
Right.
The pharma thing was actually a bipartisan bill,
Right.
and why? How is that getting vetoed? So that has to be explained.
So
Yeah,
so
my
yeah.
head.
Yeah, so hopefully there's time. We're always over our
Yeah,
30
I
minutes.
know this
My
was good
family
though. A
my
little over.
family
Let's
always
wrap
my
up.
family always coaches me later that we're over our 30 minutes. But so I
Yeah.
I, I want to I want to use my ending for just something I was thinking about also, which is this moment getting back to our North Star, which is for me I tell everybody, "Do you want my unfiltered version about what I think about all of this?" And they tell me yes, and I give it to them, which is I don't care. Because to me, my North Star is November 3rd, 2026, to ensure that we win the House and that we do our part for the Senate. That has to be the North Star, or everything else, nothing matters. It doesn't matter. We have to do those 2 things, or I don't know what to expect if we can't do that. So that
Right.
means that our attention has to be focused on making sure we do everything that we can, which is this pushing pause so that we can let people know, the American people know the truth about what is happening, that it is certainly bigger than groceries and it is bigger than gasoline and it is bigger than eggs.
Right.
We have to get to the bottom so they can see that their life will be different and change. So that is fear, but it's also bringing in passion and hope so that they can see the future. But they need to see that this ending can end one or 2 ways. It can end where we have hope and we have the ability to thrive, or it can end where we have no idea what this
Right.
Trump administration, this MAGA, this ruthless, mean, cruel group of people will do to people who look like you and me and others.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
And
So
I
that's
think the one my wrap is that the other side of that is when we do have power, then we should govern like what it looks like when we have it. So this is the frustrating part about Virginia. So all that said, we want to do all this to win it. We got it. We could actually protect the people in the state with protections, and they don't do it. So you're confounded. Like if you win the midterms, are these MFers going to do what we think it's going to take to protect us, or are they going to do the same bullshit? And that's why we need to behave and act like we mean it because we want people to go out and vote and feel it. And that's why Virginia matters, right, Lauren? I mean, to me, I feel like it all matters what we're talking here, because if you're saying we got to win it, we do have it. But how are you wielding it then? And that matters, because that's your brand.
Yeah, I mean, at a time when we got to get people out voting, we got to get people interested, and I think they're there. We don't need
Yes.
anyone
Don't
all the
do
time.
much. They're going to vote. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to vote. I think there's going to be a massive backswing against Donald Trump, a massive backswing. But let's not do things to make it more difficult. Okay, I think it's going to
Get out of our way. I get it. But I'm going to say because if we all are this positive thinkers, they're already setting up the
Yeah.
steal in California, right? How they want to try to mess up the election. With that said, though, when we get that power, we need to be able to do the right things with it. And that's where I sort of get worried about what we just talked about earlier. So with that, I'll say great conversation. Great to see you, Lauren. And I
Good
always
seeing you.
end with this. Yeah, Sam Norton, great to see everybody in the room. Alpha, you will get a call back, and we have you will get a call back. And Friday, I want to talk about Friday real quick, because I always
I know, but Sam says, always over, but great conversation.
Sam, do you really expect anything less of us? Come on now. But Friday we have the Paul Quigley, who's an author who wrote his book that you just got the book, The Raising
Yeah, I
King.
just got the book. It is The Man Behind the Cane.
Man Behind the Cane. We'll talk about that, and we may have Tom Perillo on from the candidate there, and then we'll be concentrating on great things. And the Women's Summit, get your tickets. We always like to say that, April 21st, 23rd. Support us. And thank you, Lauren, for jumping in. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.